Welcome to the training module on physical, occupational, and speech, language, and hearing therapy. This module will cover the definitions and usages of physical, occupational, and speech, language, and hearing therapies. For the purposes of this training, speech, language, and hearing therapy will be referred to simply as speech therapy. In this training, you will learn when and how these therapies can be provided to individuals on your caseload, what documentation is needed, and how to enter therapy into the service plan. We will review the qualifications necessary for service providers and the differences between habilitative and rehabilitative therapy. To begin, let's review the basic definitions of these therapies and what types of activities they may cover. Physical therapy focuses on the body and mobility and is aimed at helping individuals to regain or improve physical abilities. It focuses on restoring movement, reducing pain, and improving gross motor skills, such as movement and coordination of the arms, legs, and other large body parts. Physical therapy utilizes things such as therapeutic exercise, massage, electrotherapy, assistive devices, and patient education and training to enhance or restore movement and improve quality of life. Some examples of physical therapy activities might include walking, climbing stairs, and increasing strength and range of motion. Occupational therapy is focused on fine motor skills and improving functioning with daily activities. It's aimed at helping individuals acquire or regain skills needed to engage in meaningful activities of daily life, such as self-care, social interaction, cognitive functioning, or education and work. Examples may include helping an individual with personal care routines, such as brushing teeth or shaving, helping with daily tasks such as meal preparation, laundry, or budgeting, or helping an individual to socialize with others and engage in work or educational activities. Speech therapy focuses on speech, language, and cognition. It is the therapeutic treatment of impairments of speech, voice, language, social communication, or swallowing disorders. Speech therapists may work with an individual on producing sounds correctly, language pragmatics, understanding receptive language, using expressive language effectively, and cognitive abilities such as organizing thoughts, planning, remembering, and problem solving. Any of these therapy services can be habilitative or rehabilitative in nature. Habilitative therapy helps a person to keep, learn, or improve skills that they already have, while rehabilitative therapy helps a person to keep, get back, or improve skills that have been lost or impaired due to injury or illness. Physical, occupational, and speech therapy services offered through the DDD budget have the same scope and nature as defined by the state plan, and providers of these services must meet the qualifications specified in the state plan. Therapies may be either rehabilitative or habilitative in nature and may be delivered either individually or in a group. Services that are rehabilitative in nature may only be provided when services under the state plan have been exhausted. It is important to note that therapy services may be provided only when prescribed by a healthcare professional. We will review provider qualifications in the next slide. Group therapy is limited to one therapist to a maximum of 5 participants, and therapy sessions may not exceed 60 minutes in length. It is the responsibility of the therapist to record the start and end time of each session in the participant's clinical record. Providers of therapy services must comply with the standards set forth in the service manuals and meet state licensing requirements for their profession. This includes completing state and federal background checks and drug tests, as well as successfully completing division-mandated training. Certified home health agencies providing therapy services must also meet appropriate licensing or accreditation requirements and be certified by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Now let's review the steps for accessing therapy services. The need for therapy is identified through the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool and the Person-Centered Planning process documented in the Person-Centered Planning Tool and an appropriate medical prescription. Once the need has been determined, the following steps must be completed. For services that are habilitative in nature, the support coordinator will review the NJCAT to identify an indication that the therapy is needed. A medical prescription and documentation that therapy is needed for habilitative purposes is obtained from the appropriate healthcare professional and uploaded to iRecord. This information can be provided through 2 separate documents or all within the prescription. Therapy is then included in the individualized service plan, and prior authorization is sent to the service provider in order to deliver and claim for services. For services that are rehabilitative in nature, the same steps are followed with the additional step of reaching out to the primary insurance carrier to request therapy services. This process is reviewed in the next slide. For therapy that is rehabilitative in nature, the individual or family must submit a request for therapy to the primary insurance carrier. If the request is approved, the participant will access the needed therapy through the insurance carrier and follow the process required by that insurer. If the request is denied, the individual will receive or request an explanation of benefits from the insurance carrier and submit this document to the support coordinator. The support coordinator uploads the EOB to iRecord and proceeds with assisting the individual in identifying a therapy provider. Once the service plan has been approved, the support coordinator sends the prior authorization and the EOB from the insurance carrier to the provider. The provider must then request the bypass letter request form from the email address listed here. The provider completes the form, attaches the EOB for the denied service, and submits the documents to the OSC. Staff at the OSC will review the information and issue a bypass letter if appropriate. The provider then submits a claim for services along with the bypass letter for payment. Here we see what the service entry for speech therapy looks like in the ISP. The same process is followed for physical and occupational therapy. The provider should advise the support coordinator the duration of services needed. In this example, 30 minutes per week. Units for therapy are in 15-minute increments, so 30 minutes per week would equal 2 weekly units, which is entered into the service plan. Remember that therapy may not exceed 60 minutes per session. Ensure that the dates for the service align with the service plan. For example, if a prescription is written for 6 months of therapy, the service should not be entered beyond this parameter. New prescriptions are required annually. Therapy services are only funded through the individual family supports budget component. This concludes the training module on therapy services. Please refer to Section 17 of the program manuals as you work with your caseload.